right. That was Arrested Development. People every day. So I have said this before. I was the second one of my mother's children who was born. Out of her 4 children, I was her second born. But I was the first one of her children who was born with the full rights of an American citizen. So even though I was the second one, I was the first one born with the full rights of an American citizen. Flash to Thursday, my second grandchild, my daughter's second child, was born in Atlanta, Georgia. She was born as the second child of my daughter. She will be born with less rights than her grandfather. When I was born, affirmative action had become the law of the land. In civil rights legislation that passed, affirmative action was the law of the land. Later on, there was Roe versus Wade. So those were expansion of freedoms. My daughter's second-born child, my granddaughter, will be born with less rights than me. We're talking about affirmative action, which, for all intents and purposes, was killed by a Supreme Court. And one of the people that spearheaded that was, of course, Clarence Thomas. And the hypocrisy is that Clarence Thomas, of course, benefited from affirmative action. 2 leading presidential candidates, which is ridiculous to call them leading presidential candidates because Donald Trump is at 50 and they're like 3 and 7. But, we can call them presidential candidates because for all intents and purposes, they haven't jumped out the race. Nikki Haley's father benefited, and Nikki Haley, by extension, benefited from affirmative action. She benefited from affirmative action. So we got Clarence Thomas, who has made a decision to basically destroy affirmative action. We have Nikki Haley, who says she's against affirmative action. And we have Vivek Ramaswamy. I can't even say that name. I just call him the Tamarind Taliban because he was in an interview, said that he got, Mehdi Hassan was interviewing. He has, of course, made his opposition to affirmative action known. But when he was 24 years old, he took a Soros scholarship, a law scholarship for people, minorities, even though he made $750,000. But he is against it now. I don't begrudge those people when they were very young for using what was available to them. I don't begrudge them for those very things that they're now denying other people, helping them fulfill their dreams. Somebody saw something in them, and they were able to go on to the highest. Clarence Thomas is one as a Supreme Court justice, the second one on the court, black one on the court. Nikki Haley, the first governor of Indian descent of South Carolina, Vivek Ramaswamy, is a very wealthy dude and running for president. But they all had the benefit of something they would deny someone else. They all got in the gate and closed it on someone else. And that, to me, is the problem. You forgot what Vivek Ramaswamy in his interview said, well, I was a 24-year-old kid. There are other 24-year-old kids, I imagine, with dreams and aspirations. There are other 24-year-old kids who might want to avail themselves to whatever they can to help themselves get forward. There are other 24-year-olds who are bright, who have futures, who need help. But you and people like you and Clarence Thomas and Nikki Haley would seek to take away the very thing that made you you. Your color got you green, and now you're trying to deny that for somebody else. That, to me, is the problem. Why would you benefit from something and then take it away from people on the auspices that is no longer necessary? Oftentimes, things aren't when you don't need them anymore. But other people do. And as a person who wants to be the leader of the country, or the leader of the free world, and somebody else who sits on the court and makes these kinds of decisions, it seems to be a disqualification for you to rule on cases like this when you benefited from them. Clarence Thomas, Nikki Haley, and Vivek Ramaswamy, I am happy that you got what you wanted. I'm happy that there were a situation of programs that helped you to ascend. And I'm glad you availed yourself to them. And I'm glad you achieved. But I'm also glad that you never ran across you. The older you, Clarence Thomas, would rule against you. The older you, Nikki Haley, would be against you. The older you, Vivek Ramaswamy, would be against you. You would be in your own way. So the very benefit that you benefited from, the very thing that made you you and helped you to ascend, you would deny somebody else. And thank God you didn't have to go through you to do it. That's a little note from the GED section. We got the Jazz Report coming up in 15 minutes. It's the D.L. Hughley Show.